climate change. It's a huge topic, right? And it can get super complicated really fast. So, in this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that noise. We'll break down the core science, look at the hard evidence, and map out the choices that are right in front of us.
Okay, let's dive right in with a simple but honestly a really powerful analogy. Think about it like this. Weather is just a single roll of the dice. It's what's happening outside your window right now. But climate? That's the statistics from thousands of rolls. It's the long-term average, what you expect to happen. So when we talk about climate change, what we're really saying is that the dice themselves are being loaded to favor new, more extreme outcomes. So here's the roadmap for how we're going to tackle this. We'll start with the basics, then get into the evidence. After that, we'll pinpoint the cause, look at where the future is headed, and finally, explore what can actually be done about it.
All right, Section 1, the basics. Before we go any further, let's just lock in a clear, simple definition so we're all on the same page.
So here's the key takeaway. Climate change isn't about one weirdly hot summer or a single crazy storm. We're talking about a fundamental shift in the whole system's patterns, things like temperature, rainfall, sea levels, that we can measure over really long periods, like multiple decades. It's the trend that matters. So that's what it is. But how do we actually know what's happening? In this next section, we're going to look at the cold, hard data, the evidence for these changing patterns.
The clearest signal we have comes from thermometers all over the world. The global record shows that, on average, our planet has already warmed up by about 1.1 degrees Celsius since the Industrial Revolution. Now, that might not sound like a huge number, but for an entire planet, that's a massive amount of extra energy being trapped in the system. And it's not just a number in the air. The entire climate system is reacting. We can see ice disappearing everywhere. The oceans have absorbed an unbelievable 93% of all that extra heat. Sea levels are rising. And the massive ice sheets in places like Greenland and Antarctica, they're shrinking. All these signs are pointing in the exact same direction. Now, this is a question you hear all the time, and it's a fantastic one. Hasn't the climate always changed? The answer is yes, absolutely. But what's different this time isn't just that it's changing, it's the incredible jaw-dropping speed at which it's happening.
Just look at this timeline. To come out of the last ice age, the planet warmed by about 6 degrees, but it took 10,000 years. Now, look at the last century. We've seen about 1 degree of warming in just 100 years. That means what's happening now is happening roughly 16 times faster than that natural warming period. That's what's so unprecedented.
Okay, so the planet is warming, and it's warming at a crazy speed. That brings us to the next logical question. Section 3. How do we know that we're the ones causing it? To find the culprit, you can think of climate scientists as detectives. They've gone through and systematically investigated every single natural factor that we know can change the climate.
They went down the list of all the usual suspects. Tectonic plate movements? Way too slow. The sun's energy? Nope, it hasn't changed enough to explain this. What about the Earth's orbit, the thing that causes ice ages? Well, that happens over thousands of years, not decades. Natural cycles? They just can't account for this much warming this fast.
So once you've rolled out all the natural possibilities, you're left with only one explanation that perfectly fits all of the evidence: the massive increase in heat-trapping greenhouse gases that has come from human activity, mainly burning fossil fuels.
And look, this isn't just a theory. This is the global scientific consensus. The IPCC, which is the world's leading body of climate experts, put it this way: the human influence is unequivocal. That's a really strong word. It means there's no longer any doubt. Knowing the cause is so powerful because it allows us to model what might happen next. So for Section 4, let's take a look at where we could be headed.
The thing is, our climate future isn't one single destiny. It's more like a range of possibilities. Scientists model these using different storylines for how our society might develop. As you can see, they range all the way from a super sustainable path to one where we just double down on fossil fuels.
And here's the crucial part. As of right now, our current trajectory, our policies, our trends, it puts us right on that middle-of-the-road path. And that path leads to about 3 degrees Celsius of warming by the end of this century. That's a profoundly different world than the one we live in today.
So, when you're faced with a challenge like that, the big question is, what can be done? And that brings us to our final section, the response.
Broadly speaking, all of our potential responses can be sorted into 3 main buckets, and each one tackles the problem from a totally different angle.
Okay, so first up you have mitigation and adaptation. You can think of it this way. Mitigation is about trying to prevent the problem from getting worse. It's turning off the faucet to stop the tub from overflowing. Adaptation is about dealing with the impacts that are already here or can't be avoided. It's grabbing a mop because there's already water on the floor. And then there's this third idea, geoengineering. This is the really out there concept of intentionally trying to manipulate the entire planet's climate system on a huge scale. It's a potential option for sure, but it comes with enormous risks and huge questions about who gets to control the world's thermostat.
To make these choices more concrete, scientists have come up with something called a carbon budget. Just like a financial budget, it's the total amount of carbon we can still put into the atmosphere if we want to have a decent shot at staying below that 2-degree warming target. And that budget is about 1.5 trillion tons.
And this number right here is what makes this so incredibly urgent. At the rate we're going today, we're on track to burn through that entire budget in about 30 years or so, by the 2050s. The window of opportunity to stay within that scientifically advised limit, well, it's closing and it's closing fast. And that brings us to our final thought. The science is clear, the evidence is all around us, and the potential paths for the future are laid out. The choices we make, particularly in this next decade, will pretty much lock in our climate trajectory. So the ultimate question really isn't about the science anymore. It's about us. It's about our choices.